So here she is. I've realised the best tactic with her is to just kind of go for it, because if you give her too much time to think, she does get quite strikey and then she's just wound up. So if you do want to get her out, which I don't do very often, you just kind of have to go for it. Huh. Because you're a sassy little girl. You're fine. Nothing bad is happening. I mean, you are getting a new enclosure, so you probably won't. Where are you going? Say hi. Hi, YouTube. She's like, I heard people were asking to see more of me, so here I am. Should we put you in? Just temporary, I promise. So this size enclosure is really not ideal. I would not keep a snake in this long term, but this is the only thing that I have. I did have a spare bin cage, but the rescue mice are in that at the moment, so this was my only option, and it will be fine for a couple of days. And she spends most of her time in her humid hide anyway, so this will have to do. There's not very much in here. I don't think I could have fit much anyway, but all of her natural things like the branches and cork logs I need for the tank build anyway, so this is only for like 2-3 days, maybe a week. I said that last time with Orbit, but I'm going to try and be as quick as possible and get her back into her proper home. My hay fever is so bad today. I can't stop sneezing mid-sentence, so this is going to be interesting, but I thought I'd show you everything that I bought or got recently to do my snake's naturalistic bioactive enclosure, because I've been collecting everything ready to do it. So the first couple of things are really exciting because I've actually become a long-term partner with Arcadia. As you know, I use all of their products pretty much with Orbit, all the heating, lighting, supplements, all Arcadia, and to be honest, I probably wouldn't go anywhere else. So the first thing they sent is their Jungle Dawn LED bar. This is the 22 watts one, and this is for the live plants in the enclosure. I am planning on using live plants, so this is for that, and just generally lighting the enclosure as well, which you can see in Orbit's tank behind me. Then we also have a big UVB bar. This is the 2.5% Shade Dweller Max, and UVB is so beneficial to reptiles or amphibians, so I'm really excited for her to finally have this. And if you're not too sure which one to go for your reptiles or amphibians, there is a bunch of information on the back, but there's also a lot of information on their website. They do have a really useful page where you can select your species, and if your species is not on there, which an African egg-eating snake wasn't because they're not the most common snake to keep, all you have to do is submit your species and they will do all the work for you and research what kind of UVB to use and then put that on their website. So that's what I did. I found that really helpful, and this was the one that was recommended. One thing that's really great about their UVB and also their LED is you can connect multiple of these together. So I can connect this one to Orbit's UVB and just have that running off of one power source, which is going to be a lifesaver because I have a lot of tanks and not many plug sockets, and all of them are already in use, so that's going to save me a lot of stress. The last thing they sent me is their book, and this is basically just a guide to bioactivity and how to make the enclosures as close as possible to what they would naturally experience in the wild. So I know what I'm going to be reading tonight, but I've had a quick flick through, and the page I happen to open it on has the cutest picture of the pets I want to get next. So I'm going to give this a good read, and I recommend also doing this if you're as clueless as I am when it comes to doing bioactive enclosures. I've not done that many. This is my first one. I mean, it's not really fully bioactive, so I'm going to give this a good read. So for the things I bought, let's start with the substrate layers. So I still had a bit of clay balls left, but definitely not enough to do the entire enclosure. So I did buy a second bag of those. I got some mesh for the drainage layer. I went for black this time because the white one in Orbit's tank drives me insane that you can see it so much, so hopefully this is better. For the main substrate, we are going with Earth Mix by Arcadia. I did buy this myself. I did only get 2 bags, and looking at this, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough, so I might have to go and buy a third bag if it doesn't end up being enough. But for now, I just got 2 bags of this. To mix in with that, I did buy some orchard bark chips, and this is already open because I've been using this to make a background, so there's still a fair bit of those left to mix in, so maybe I won't need to buy more substrate, but we'll see. I then also bought some sphagnum moss. I've been using this on the background and in the background, but there is a little bit left I can use somewhere in the enclosure. I could also maybe mix this in with a substrate, but we have a fair bit of that left. I then also bought this jungle vine by Exoterra, and I'm still undivided as to whether it's great or kind of hideous, so I'll put it in, I'll see, but I'm not sure if it just looks a bit too fake looking, but we'll give it a go. So I think that's everything snake related. I think pretty much everything else that I'm putting in I already had beforehand. I did buy a few more things when I was ordering all of the other snake things. So in this empty tank, which is there above me, there is already a cork background. It did belong to my snail, but obviously doesn't fit in my snail's current tank. So that is in this empty tank. And to be honest, after starting this snake background, I've tried expanding foam and grout. Now I'm doing expanding foam and silicone. It's just a lot. I don't have it in me to do another background, so I've just bought some instead. So as I said, I've already got one cork background on the back of that enclosure, but I wanted to also cover the sides, so I bought 2 of these smaller size cork ones like this out to whack myself in the head, and they are going to need trimming a little bit, but they're going to go like on the sides of the enclosure like this and just make it really enclosed. So I will start that after I finish doing this snake enclosure, but very tempting to start now, but I need to focus on one thing at a time and just get this finished. But I will try to link as much of this as possible in the description, just in case you're wanting to do something similar. Some things are from my wholesaler, but I will try my best to find them on other websites. And of course, don't forget to check out Arcadia if you need UVB, lighting, substrate, supplements. All of that is really good quality, so their website will also be in the description, and I just can't wait for you guys to see the finished result. So it is time. I feel like I've not done mouse intros in years. I guess because I kind of haven't, but I'm not worried. There's not a single one of them that I'm really worried about how they're going to react. So here goes nothing. So I just got back from, wow, it is super echoey in here, but the bathroom is the only place that has good lighting this time of day. I just got back from going to the last ever Doncaster Reptile show with my friends, and I didn't film anything because they don't really like you doing that anymore. And to be honest, I am not the tallest person in the world, and it was super packed and I didn't really see any animals really. And I was super flustered, but thank you to anyone that did come up and say hi. I did buy a couple of bits, which I'll show you in a second, but if you're not really into seeing taxidermy, I didn't go and buy like a whole taxidermy wolf or something, but to me it's kind of tasteful taxidermy, if that's a thing, for things like butterflies and beetles. If you're really not into seeing that kind of thing, skip to this timestamp here to just see the plants, but I did use it as an opportunity to buy plants for my tanks and a few other things, so let me show you what I bought. So these are both from a company called Dead Set Co. I'll leave their link in the description. They are all ethically sourced, and at the top we have a moth. I think it's a silk moth, and it looks like this. I didn't want anything that was too brightly coloured. And then we have this little beetle. I'm not sure if it's some type of flower beetle or something, but I've named this Bertie the bathroom beetle, and it's really tiny and I like it. I know it's not to everyone's taste, but I think they look really nice in here. Okay, so these are the plants I bought. This one I actually bought the other day. This is a Boston fern, and then this is a golden pothos, I think. And then we also have 2 air plants to go in the snake enclosure. So that's all of the plants for my snake. And then these plants I also got. This might give you a clue as to what's going in the spare enclosure. We have got 2 bromeliads, this one and this one, and then don't ask me what these are, I have no idea. Does it say on the pot? No. But these are also to go in, and then also this, which I think is kind of like blanket moss. Not sure, not a plant person, but these are all to go into my spare enclosure too.
Buddy, ready to go back in? You ready? You hungry? Ready? Go! She is.
Smelling it all.
Cherry.
What are you picking? Must be nice when they've not had like cherries and stuff. Look at them knocking it back. And they've not had cherries for a while when you get one. Look at her tail. Yeah. I feel like I've barely showed you the rats, if at all, in this video, so I apologise for that, but they're all fine. I think I've just had so much to update you with everything else, and there's not really much to update you on the rat front, but Whisper is a very, very old man now. He's starting to get to the point that Crumble was at, where he's got barely any muscle left in his back legs, and I think he's around 2 years, 4 months, so he's doing really, really good to get to this age, but he is starting to really slow down and really get thin and old and frail, so bless him, he's really not looking his finest, but everyone else is doing okay. I think because he's also not eating as much. The other boys are getting a bit fat, so we need to fix that and put them on a bit of a diet, but apart from that, everyone is okay, doing good, just not really enjoying the heat at the moment, so they've not been doing very much, just kind of hiding away and trying not to melt. Same as me, really. This guy is the nosiest. I almost step on him about 10 billion times a day if I'm trying to do something, because he wants to be right there with you, trying to help. He is not helpful at all. He steals your stuff and hides it into the rat cage, so he is definitely a handful, and he's getting huge. When he was a baby, I thought he's definitely going to be smaller than everyone else, but no, he is caught up and he is getting massive as well, so everyone here needs to slim down a bit, and he is no exception. So I'm actually on my last bag of Orbeos bedding, and I've decided I'm not going to use it anymore. I've always had a reaction to this. I've always kind of like dry heaved when cleaning out the rats. Not because of the smell, because this bedding, I just feel very sensitive to it. I do have like grass and hay allergies anyway, so cleaning any rodent or rabbit or whatever out, I've always had a reaction to, but the rats and mice have always seemed fine. I've not seen any adverse reactions in them, so I've kind of just put my own health aside and just put up with it, because it is an absorbent bedding. But I've noticed in the past couple of bags the quality is just not good, and this is nothing on the company, but kind of sort your bedding out. It's supposed to be dust extracted and dust free, and it's so incredibly dusty. I've noticed at least one of the mice has had like really watery eyes, and as soon as I noticed that, I was like, no, I'm done, I'm gonna stop using it. And to be honest, I would have switched to dust extracted kiln dried shavings sooner, but if I'm honest, I just couldn't be bothered with all of the comments every time I show my enclosures, whether it's the mice or the rats, of people being like, oh my god, you can't use shavings because your rats and mice are going to die, when we know now that is not the case if you get very good quality shavings. So I will use this up at some point. I'll mix it in probably with something else. The rats don't seem as reactive to it, but Orbeos is going bye-bye, and I'm switching to what I've been using at the refuge with like the monkeys, stuff like that. I don't have any reaction to it, so I thought I'm going to give this a try, and that is snowflake shavings. When I used to use the Orbeos with the rats and the mice, I'd use about half a bag for each of them. This seems to be a lot more compacted, and I've not used anywhere near as much. I did struggle though to actually get out the bag to start with, just because it is so compact, but I think it's going to be a lot more cost effective. This was only £9 for a bag, and Orbeos was starting to get up there. It was about £12–13 a time, so I think in the long run this is also going to save money too. So here is the finished setup with the new bedding, and I have gone ahead and just put in everything like I usually would. I don't recommend doing this if you're not too sure about how to introduce mice, or you've had any issues with your mice in the introduction process so far, but besides the initial fear from Lark, they have been together for almost a week in the bin cage, and I've not seen anything concerning at all. They're pretty much acting like they've known each other their entire lives, so I don't have any concerns about them going into this. Do I recommend doing that? Not really, unless you're really familiar with mice. I've done this enough times now that I'm pretty certain they're going to be absolutely fine, so I just want to get them in here, and if I'm wrong, it's fine. I'll just take them out and take them back a step, but I don't think they're going to have any issues. Mice for me have always been so easy compared to the rats, and these ones are being extra easy, so this is their setup. We've got a dig box over here as usual. Oh, and I bought these hides the other day. These are so cute. They are terracotta hides by Trixie. I just got them in a local pet store, and they are so cute. They're going to be really good for the warmer months. We have this one, and then also this little one. So cute. But yeah, that is my setup for the month. I'm actually happy with it for once. We've got the last of my sprays actually from Hamsters We Love store there, and then also some more at the back. And then this one, the size of this is insane. So those are also there. Oh, and also they have got a bowl of live mealworms, but they're not acting very lively, but they are supposed to be alive. Oh, there's one. And then of course we have the two hides. Oh, there's my croc. We have the two hides platforms by Rat Accessories. This one, and then my favourite one, this one at the front. Look how much better the tunnels hold in this bedding compared to hemp. They could never really do that too much with the hemp, so I'm happy with that. I think next time I will put more in because it does condense quite a lot. I did like push it down before putting everything in, but I think the weight of everything is still pushing it further, so next time I might put even more bedding in because this is impressive and that makes me really happy. So it is the end of this video and time to answer your questions. Before that though, I just wanted to quickly talk about what would have been last week's video for you guys, which was me and my friend giving the rescue sugar gliders that we work with an upgrade, and I was really excited to show you the progress of the before and after and what we did for them. But pretty quickly after uploading that, I started getting comments from people that actually own sugar gliders, actually know what they're doing with sugar gliders, telling me that some things in the enclosure were not appropriate, and that was quite disappointing just on my behalf, not anything to do with their comments, because I joined a couple sugar glider groups. I'd done barely any research, but just a little bit of research to kind of look into their care, and I was kind of copying setups I'd seen on Facebook and on UK glider groups, and a fair number of those did have ropes or items containing rope items in, so that's the reason I chose to put that kind of thing in the enclosure. But I was getting a lot of comments of people saying that they're not safe, they're not suitable, so I was on the fence about whether to keep that video up, and ultimately I did decide to take it down because the last thing that I want is to spread misinformation about an animal that I have no intention of owning and don't have half as much knowledge as rats or mice or other pets. I don't want to spread misinformation if that was even a possibility, so I was like, I'll just take the video down, which is a shame because I probably could have got a lot more donations. All the people that donated maybe didn't get to see the video, but I just felt like that was the best thing. But 99.9% of the comments on that video were all coming from a good place. I did get one negative comment, and I'm not going to dwell on it too much because this person has just invalidated their initial concerns by going on and just being ridiculous. But I didn't use the donations to buy myself a brand new rat cage. I know it's kind of coincidental that I ended up with this cage around the same time that I started volunteering, but the only reason pretty much that there's a connection is I've wanted this cage for 2 years. I can afford it. I could have afforded it 2 years ago, but the only reason I couldn't justify getting a new one is because my old one was still relatively okay. It wasn't in the best condition, but I was fine with keeping that until I saw animals that I knew could have better use out of that cage if I bought myself a new one out of pocket. So that's the only connection. I didn't take away money from animals that I give 6 hours of my working week to. As someone who's chronically ill, sometimes I don't even spend 6 hours on myself in a week, so I'm not going to take away money from animals that I've come to care for. That's just not in my nature, and the fact that someone thinks I would be that kind of person is kind of insulting. But just in case anyone else was wondering why there might be a connection, that is literally it. Anywho, let's look at some questions from my channel members. The first one is from Alexa, and it says, I'd love to learn more about litter training rats. I do have a video on litter training, but It is super old, and this is probably my sign to make a new one. And when is the best time to start thinking about getting more rats? I have my first rat since nearly 2 years. So a lot of people will recommend getting new rats when yours are about 6 months old, and then keep doing that every 6 months. I tend to go more towards the year mark and have a year's gap between my rats because I don't want a lot of rats, and I think if I was getting them every 6 months I probably would have more than I ideally want. So 6 months to a year, I'd say. Anything above a year is a bit risky because that's when they can start having health issues and can just randomly pass away a lot more often. So with yours being 2 years old, I definitely would try and start making plans for that very soon, just in case. Then I also got 2 very similar questions, one from Emily and then also this one, basically just asking if I have any small business tips, any tips for starting a small business, just generally. And then also this one, I think, wanted to know a bit more about pet businesses specifically. So I thought hard about this before answering, and my answer to this is try to find something specific that you can offer that other businesses aren't already offering. So for me, initially I was offering personal products, pictures of my pets, paintings that my pets did, and then of course I started branching into pet products a lot more. I don't tend to do the personal side as much, but that is a nice touch to add. If you can offer something that no one else can offer, I'd say that's my biggest tip. Another example of something that I offer as a business is one thing that really annoys me with bigger businesses, things like Pets at Home or Zooplus. If you're trying to order something, say a plastic hide for example, and you've got a colour scheme in your enclosure, most big websites, Amazon for example, you can't select the colour of the item. They just send you a random one and you've got no say in the matter. So I really make sure anything that has options, any colour options, I put that on the website and you can choose. It doesn't take me any extra time really to pick the colour you want, but that to me as a customer makes all the difference. So things like that, things that you can offer that other people don't, really helps in the start. The second part to that question is how are you finding running your own business? I really enjoy it. I'd even go as far as saying that packing orders and dealing with that side of things I enjoy more than doing YouTube. But unfortunately there's not too much income in that side of things at the moment. They do say that it does take 2 to 3 years for a business to be sustainable and actually make good income. And I'm definitely finding that to be true because everything I make from my store, it's all a separate business. Everything I make goes back into the business, buying stock, buying supplies, things like that. I don't really see much of the money, which is quite disheartening because you're putting so many hours in, packing orders, replying to emails, things like that, and you're not really seeing much of that. So it is a lot of hard work initially when you're not getting much back, but hopefully we're almost in year 3, I think, or we are in year 3. Hopefully we'll start seeing things soon, but it does take a long while for it to pick up and you're putting more in than you're getting out. Now you were getting into volunteering for an animal rescue, would your animal sanctuary work still be something you would be interested in securing in the future? I've been thinking about this whilst working with the animals because it is so rewarding. It's always what I wanted to do as a child, actually working with animals that you don't really see that often, but my body is so broken. My joints don't work, my nervous system doesn't work, and it is really hard on your body. You think, oh, it's just 1 day a week, but when I first started, the 2 days afterwards, I was completely done for. I couldn't do anything, I couldn't function. I think gradually I'm starting to get a bit more stamina. I can pick 2 watering cans up now and walk around the entire place and not feel like I'm dying, which I guess is a plus. But I don't think long term, every day 9 to 5, that I would be cut out for that kind of work. I do see a future for myself in either animal rescue or some sort of business, having animals on site, working with them, but I think my position would more be kind of directing other people and planning things. I really enjoy like planning projects and stuff, so I think if I was to do anything like that and start something myself, then I'd be a lot more proactive in it. But I just hate the idea of letting other people down. Doing any kind of 9 to 5, I just don't think I could. What would be a good first job that has animals? This one I think very much depends on your individual morals or ethics. A lot of people's first job with animals is working in a pet store, whether it's a chain pet store or a small business pet store. That was my kind of first experience of a job, and it was definitely eye-opening. But if you can cope with that and you're not totally against that, a lot of people do go that route. Also, if you're clued up about dogs and you like dogs, working in a kennel or volunteering in a kennel, a lot of people tend to do that initially. So either of those things I think is very easy to get into compared to other things like zoo work. That is impossible even with a degree sometimes. So those kind of things, I think. And what would be your tips for starting a pet YouTube channel? Oh, I would probably say focus on one particular animal that you're really interested in and you've got a lot of knowledge stored in here about, and just put all of the information about that out. Share them, share their lives, and then of course you can expand to other animals, but focus on the one that you're really interested in. You don't need to have 20, 30, 50 animals to start a pet channel. I started mine, I literally had 2 rats and a mouse. That was it. So you can start with just one pet if you want to. Someone's car alarm is going off, but you don't have to have a bunch of animals to get started. Melissa wants to know, because I watch all of your videos sometimes, I wonder if something you mentioned for the rats might not be good for the mice. Then I can't remember what video it was in. Are there differences we should know about if we have one but not both? I get these comments quite often if I'm sharing enrichment for the rats, and people ask, can I do this with my hamster or my mouse or my whatever gerbil? And some things do apply. You can transfer some things like foraging toys if you can find smaller versions, or dig boxes for example. The biggest one and the only one that's kind of coming to mind at the moment is enrichment based. Of course, rats and mice do share a lot of similarities. They have a lot of similar health issues and you can use the same beddings with them, but the one thing that you can't do with mice, I tend to recommend and do a lot with the rats, is things like pea fishing. Mice shouldn't really get wet just because of their size. They can lose body heat a lot quicker than rats can. Rats can get completely soaked in pea fishing and they'll be fine, but I don't tend to recommend that with mice just because they are so small. Unless it's really hot, I sometimes give them the tiniest bit of water that's mostly just peas in the water, but most of the time I don't recommend that just because they are so small. So that's one example I can think of, but I'll always try to clarify if I'm doing something with the rats and someone asks, can I do this with the mice? I'll always be clear and be like, yes or no. Is there any other pets you're interested in or thinking of getting, like a dog or another type of rodent or reptile? So if you're a channel member, if you scroll back on my community tab, I've posted a picture of what my future dog is going to look like. We are getting a dog next year, so all of that is on there for you. But in terms of the other things, there are 2 more things I'm thinking of getting, in this room at least. I'll give you a clue about that tank. That tank is going to be for an amphibian, and I'm very excited because I've always wanted one. And I do have another Exoterra that is going to be for a rodent that you probably might not expect. Some of you might, but that should be coming whenever I find one to rescue. So being very vague here, but I will post updates for channel members as they happen. My camera died, but we've got one last question from Devin, and that is, what's your favourite daily activity / hobby / task? And I do actually really enjoy going for a walk, but I procrastinate doing it. I'm like, I'm not going to go, I can find something else to do. I feel like I don't have much of a purpose going for a walk by myself. It feels really silly. I know it shouldn't, but I'm really looking forward to having a dog. And even in the rain and the snow, I'll regret saying this, but I'm really looking forward to having a reason to go outside every day and looking forward to just going on daily walks. So I do enjoy a good walk, but I don't do it as often as I should. In terms of actual tasks that I enjoy doing, this is so random, but the animals that need misting, so the snail, the millipede, I really enjoy just standing there and spraying them. I find it really relaxing. I could have 10 more tanks and not enjoy all of the maintenance that goes into them, but just standing there and misting them brings me even a tiny bit of joy. So that's probably my favourite task. I don't really enjoy doing much else really. But that is all of my questions from my channel members. Thank you so much to anyone that sent one in. And of course, Hubble is right outside the door. And of course, thank you for your continued support, whether you're on the rat tier or the mouse tier. Thank you so much for just being a channel member. If you are interested in becoming one and having your question answered every month in a video, or just seeing exclusive updates and things before they hit YouTube and get into a video, or just exclusive updates and pictures of the pets and new pets and name reveals. All of that is on my channel membership, which you can either click the join button underneath this video, or there is a link in the description. But that is it for this month's vlog. There is one more thing that I'm doing this month that I thought I might as well film and put in. I'm going to something called the Lincolnshire show, which if you're in a different country, that is going to mean nothing to you, but basically, essentially what it is a country show with a bunch of activities and stuff to look at, and they have a bunch of different sheep and cow breeds, really extravagant breeds that you've probably never seen before, and they show them and stuff. So I will be going to that tomorrow and looking at all of the different sheep and stuff. So if I get any interesting clips, I will put those after this. But this is goodbye from me. I'll see you next month. Don't forget to subscribe, and here are hopefully some very cute sheep. Now you've stopped. Now that I've just stopped talking, whisper is the new crumble. It's thirsty work being old.